And I am sitting with Jefferson Vineyards with assistant winemaker David Woodside. Thomas Jefferson and Filippo Mazzi planted vines here in 1700s, but they didn't produce wine. What have you learned that allows you to produce quality wines in this property?
One of the main reasons that we've been so successful is actually American rootstock. There are other modern methods that have come a long way, but grafting these vinifera onto vines that are native to the States and locally in our region has really brought Virginia and American wine a long way.
Many winemakers have come through here, including Gabrielle Rouse. What have you learned from those famous winemakers, and what have you learned subsequently to their departure?
Yeah, Gabrielle he's actually known as the father of Virginia wines, and so not only he's still with us, but the ghost of Gabrielle kind of still lives in the winery and in the vineyard. He's influenced me not only with the actual vines that I'm working with that he planted, a lot of which are still here. He influences us with his love and belief in Virginia and the wines that it can produce.
Where do you see the winery going in the next 2 decades or so?
We're always trying to adapt. Climate change and weather we have to deal with, so I see us experimenting with new types of wines that I'm also very excited about, and also with the influence of Monticello and the history that it brings to all of us. I hope that we can influence people not only with wine but also historically around this property.
How do you define quality wine?
Quality wine really does, honestly, it starts in the vineyard, so it starts with the grape and how it's grown, the weather conditions in which it is under. That's what's so great about wine, is because you can't trick people into what's good and what's bad. You can do your best in the cellar, but really where a good wine is it starts in the vineyard. So when to pick, whether or not you're choosing to pick on pH levels, on Brix levels, it can be subjective to some people. Some people like to pick at higher Brix levels and higher pH. Some people lower pH, and a mid-range are the Brix levels. And so I think what makes a quality wine is the love and care that it's shown in the vineyard. And then all we have to do is babysit it in the cellar. The hardest part really is out there in the vineyard and getting those grapes happy.
You've selected some wines for us. Why don't you tell us about them?
Sure, so we'll start with the white. This is our 2023 Viognier. We've always been really proud of the Viogniers that we've been able to produce on this site. This one that we are tasting, it won Best in Show Viognier this year at the Governor's Cup. The way we make our Viognier is we barrel ferment on neutral oak barrels. We don't want a ton of oak influence on it, but we really love the oxygen exchange that barrels impart on this wine. It's a thick-skinned white grape, which is why we barrel ferment this wine. Viognier is really well known for apricot, peach. Those are kind of the two prominent, some lemongrass that are on there, and so the 23 really showed nicely, I think, in all of those areas. Little white peach on the nose, and you can still get some of the influence on the barrel on there. Not necessarily the vanilla and toast notes, but you can really tell once you taste the wine, the effect that the barrel has on it. All right, so the next wine that we're gonna try is our 2021 Meritage. This is a Bordeaux style blend. We use Petit Verdot, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc. We age this for around 1.5 years in French and some American oak barrels. We don't have a specific blend year to year that we're trying to shoot for with our Meritage. We're trying to pick the best fruit that we have and kind of let the fruit decide for us what the blend is going to be. With the 21 Meritage, you're gonna be getting a lot of deep red fruits. There's plum, there's cherry, there's black cherry. On these, you will be getting some toast notes from the barrel on here. We do use new French oak on the Meritage, along with a little bit of American oak. This actually won a gold medal in the Governor's Cup as well. We're really proud of it. Notes to expect on here are red fruits, notes of plum, cherry, black cherry, and on the back end you'll probably get some notes of toast, vanilla. I even get a little tobacco on there. And this is a wine that really we shoot and strive for every single year to make really the best in show of our reds. Yeah, so the next wine we're gonna try is our Calle. It's the first and only wine that we've made like this. It's a port style wine. We used, in 2019, we had about 1 ton of Merlot from our property distilled at a local distillery into brandy. 2020 was not the best year here in Virginia, so we saved that brandy and used it in our 2021, a small lot of Petit Verdot that was from the property. Once we got that fermentation rolling and we got it to a place where we felt comfortable fortifying it, we put the brandy in, and from there, we threw it into only 2 American oak barrels, and we let it sit for around 3 years. And so we bottled it this last spring, and we're really, really proud of it. But really a beautiful wine. We really believe that it's spending 2+ years is what the original plan was, and then it ended up becoming 3 years. It just wasn't at a place where we were ready to bottle it. We think the 3rd year really did a lot for it. It's won multiple awards and in different Virginia competitions. We haven't sent it past any of those.
Are you going to make a new production in the future?
There are talks about it, but I can't say anything with definitive certainty right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see another one of these in a couple of years.
Thank you, David, for pouring us some great wines.
Thank you so much for having me.
Drink support.
Boom.
We are here in Central Virginia at Early Mountain Vineyards with John Roll, President. Thank you for having us out here today.
Thank you for coming, Melissa. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. John, you were the CEO at Trefethen in Napa Valley prior to coming to Virginia. What did you see in the Virginia wine industry that made you that prompted that move?
I've been in the wine industry for over 20 years, and all of that was in the Napa Valley. Napa Valley is a fantastic place. There are some amazing wines. But I had reached a point in my life where I think I was ready for my next adventure. Early Mountain Vineyards was founded in 2012 by Jean Case with a clear ambition to put Virginia on the world wine stage. She really thought that Virginia had the potential to produce wines that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the best wines of the world. They've been working diligently at it since around 2012, and I think that timing is interesting because it's similar more broadly in the wine industry in Virginia, that there's been a tremendous increase in quality. These wines are really stunning. It's taken some time in Virginia, I think, to figure out what grape varieties grow best where, how to farm them. But we're at the point now where we're coming out of experimentation and we're really into refinement. And what we're refining is a portfolio of world-class wines. These wines are truly stunning, and that's why I'm here. Wine brings people together. I think that's true around the dinner table. It can bring your family and friends together. It's also true within the industry. This is a very collaborative industry. That's something I experienced throughout my time in California and Napa, and certainly what I've experienced here in Virginia. Since I've arrived, I've been blown away by the winemakers and proprietors who have reached out, who have come by to drop off a bottle of wine. It really feels like we're on the same team, and it makes it a lot of fun. We're in the wine business, but really we're in the people business. We're in the people business in terms of cultivating a great company to work at, a great sense of community here within Early Mountain. We're in the people business in terms of the camaraderie and collaboration, how we can support each other when it comes to innovating in the vineyard and the winery. And then certainly the point of putting wine, of making wine, of putting it in the bottle, is so that somebody somewhere takes it out of the bottle.
Yeah, it's like a different type of adult entertainment industry, isn't it?
It is.
Would you like to tell us about some of the wines that you have here at Early Mountain that you make under the Early Mountain label?
As I said, it was the wines of Early Mountain that got me out of California, and the one that's in front of us right now is really one of those special wines that we make. It's a Petit Manseng. It's a variety that comes from southern France, but it's gaining more popularity here in Virginia. Go ahead, give it a taste. It's a fantastic fit for Virginia, starting in the vineyard. One of the challenges that we have is that we have rain in the summer. We have a lot of humidity. That can create some disease pressure in the vineyard. Petit Manseng is a Vitis vinifera. It's a true European variety, but it's one that's very well adapted to wetter summers. It has looser grape clusters. The grapes themselves have thicker skins. It's almost like it has a natural resilience or a natural disease resistance. Really makes it a great fit in the vineyard. A contrast to where I've come from in Napa, Sonoma. But with warm nights, one of those challenges is that many grapes will lose their acidity, or that they'll lose it faster than they will accumulate the sugar and develop their flavors. Petit Manseng is different. It's honestly the most tart grape I've ever met. When I arrived here last fall, just at the close of harvest, I was still able to taste some of the grapes and the fermenting wines, and it maintains its acidity like no other variety. And so for those reasons, the looser clusters, thick skins, the way it holds its acidity through those warmer nights makes it a fantastic wine to work with. And then huge credit to our winemaker. Maya Hood-White has developed some really innovative techniques, which I'm sure she can share with you when you visit the cellar, but it is part of what makes this wine so special. It's really sort of tropical on the nose, and then really fresh on the palate, going back to that acidity. You know, it's tough to maintain acidity in a warm environment, but it is critical to making world-class wines. Wines that will age well and wines that go with food need to have a nice backbone of natural acidity from the grapes, and our Petit Manseng and our other wines fit right into that profile.
Very nice. Now tell us about your alluvium.
So this is our 2021 alluvium. It's a red blend. We don't use the same recipe every year, but it's usually based on Merlot. This particular vintage is 78% Merlot, 22% Petit Verdot, and it's entirely from mountainside vineyards. When it comes to red varieties, especially in an area like Virginia, where we get ample rainfall throughout the growing season, using hillside or mountainside vineyards where we have much better drainage is really important, so that there's less water, less rainfall available to the grapes. What we get are smaller grapes with more concentrated flavors. So as I said, mostly Merlot, some Petit Verdot. The Merlot brings great perfume, really beautiful fruit, and then the Petit Verdot in there brings some great structure. Petit Verdot is one of the most tannic varieties that we grow, so this is really a fantastic marriage in the bottle.
So you've mentioned quality. How would you describe a quality Virginia wine?
You know, I think that it's been advances in the vineyard and in the cellar as well. And in the vineyard, it has a lot to do with what you plant where. Going all the way back to Thomas Jefferson, there's been a lot of people who've been influenced by the old world, by places like Bordeaux. And they say, oh, well, if I like a Cabernet from Bordeaux or from Napa for that matter, I should go plant Cabernet because that's the wine I like to drink. You need to listen to the land. Cabernet is an example, Chardonnay is another one. These are two varieties that there aren't that many places in Virginia that are really well suited to them. So as we've gone through this process of experimentation, you don't have to go too far from a traditional variety like Cabernet. Just get to Merlot. Merlot as a variety does much better in some of our richer clay soils and seems to handle our weather better. We also like Tannat as a blending variety. It does very well here. And when it comes to the whites, we do make a little bit of Chardonnay, but we're really excited about Petit Manseng, which I mentioned before, a really unique variety, really well suited. So in the vineyard, it's about making sure that your varieties match your site. For us, a wine like Alluvium, it's a mix of Merlot and Petit Verdot, but it's coming from our hillside property. So we're matching those grapes to a site where we have more well-drained soils, which is really important when it comes to red varieties. And then refinements in the cellar, you know, there's been a great program here in Virginia called the Winemakers Research Exchange. So there's been a lot of improvement, a lot of professionalization in the approach to winemaking, and a lot of that is through winemakers just sharing notes, sharing trials, doing research. And so they've really ushered in, I think, a big improvement, a big era of improvement in the quality of Virginia wines. And how I would judge a quality wine is pour a glass, enjoy it with some great food. And if you're getting some concentration, some complexity on the nose, and then you're getting, as I said before, the brightness on the palate from the acidity that comes naturally from the grapes, that's really important to creating sort of the whole package.
So John, where do you see the Virginia wine industry moving towards the future?
You know, I really think that we're coming out of an era of experimentation. We're into refinement in terms of what varieties grow best where. We've done a lot of work on that. Huge improvements in wine quality. And now it's really time to heighten our profile. How do we get more attention? How do we let consumers around the country and around the world know what we're doing here? So I think the time is ripe for up and coming regions like Virginia, but not just Virginia, to put themselves out there. If they've got the fantastic wine, I think the world, the consumers, they're ready to try something different. This is really the kind of wine that proves the point, right? If Gene Case founded this company to set out to say that we could make wines that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the best wines in the world, I confidently believe that both of these wines fit that mold. These are truly world-class wines.
They are world-class
And
wines.
it's a pleasure to share them with you today.
Yes. We are here at Early Mountain Vineyards with Maya Hood-White, winemaker. She's going to give us a lovely barrel tasting of their Petit Manseng. Thank you. So Maya, tell us about your Petit Manseng and the barrel formats that you use.
Yeah, so our Petit Manseng touches a variety of fermentation vessel sizes and materials. So we have a small bit that's in concrete, but the majority of it is in larger format barrel, like this 1,000 liter, as well as some 500 liters, and occasionally a 2,000 liter as well. So this particular barrel that we're tasting from is part of a perpetual lease project. So this was started in 2018. Based in 2017 lees. So the idea is that we're actually saving old lees, so several vintages of lees. So we're getting almost a Cellars of lees, and that gives it a very different autolytic character. So you're getting a lot more of those kind of brioche, toasty characters. And it's a really important component to our overall blend. So this makes up about 10% of our Petit Manseng blend, but it's a very fascinating fermentation. It's very different fermentation kinetics than you typically see in most of our wines. I will say our Petit Manseng, we ferment ambiently. This, no different, but having so many generations of spent yeast in that barrel creates a really different dynamic.
So now we have the express opportunity to taste some Tannat from Maya, straight from the barrel.
It lacks color. No, just kidding. No, Tannat is a really interesting variety because much like Petit Manseng, it's quite intense with acid, with tannin. Sorry to clank around, guys. So I realized over time, we're essentially leaning into these extremes and these varieties, but they've shown to be really unique fits for both of our sites. So Tannat's fascinating because as it ferments, when it starts out, it's surprisingly tropical. So you get a lot of this really unique guava characteristic coming through. That dissipates over time, but you end up with this kind of condensed fruit attribute in many ways. So Tannat, much like Petit Manseng, can have specific challenges in that it's a lot. They're both very excessive. I'm gonna lean across to you guys. Very excessive varieties, so a lot of many things. You know, a lot of potential alcohol, a lot of acid, a lot of tannin, but those seem to be varieties that I never thought I would say we enjoy working with, but we really do. So for this, we do a little bit more, we do some whole cluster inclusion in our fermentations, also an ambient ferment. We're really trying to bump up those aromatics. And for us, we do like a very extractive profile to the Tannat. So we are leaving this on skins and seeds in that primary fermentation a bit longer.
And how would you describe a Tannat wine to someone who has never tried?
It is, so I think of our Quaker Run Tannat, and Tannat reads throughout the state very differently to me from site to site. What I really appreciate about Quaker Run is a sort of savory aspect, not necessarily too reductive in nature, so you still get this really kind of prolific fruit profile, a lot of dense red, blue, black fruits, but you still get this kind of almost a desiccated orange character, a little bit of like a dried sage to it, and that's very much the Quaker Run site.
It's very tasty.
So it's still, I would say, one of our most extractive wines, but it's all about balance throughout all the wines for our profile because, well, and I think some of it too is like depending, people have Tannat planted in some really, you know, different sites throughout Virginia. And so sometimes, especially if they're at a higher pH, because of the way the vineyard's been farmed, that reads bigger, it reads heftier, whereas this has that really notable like acid through line that actually gives it greater longevity for aging, but it really balances the wine. So throughout all the wines, the whole idea is like this is kind of an excessive variety in many ways. It's a lot of everything, but how do we find balance?
No, the American Wine Society is full of certified wine judges. It's one of the only organizations that does certify wine judges through a 3-year program. And I think you're absolutely right. A clean wine, is always, I think, a winemaker's first goal, right? Clean.
Yeah, and I think we're at a really interesting time because there's such a movement in these different styles of wines that are being made too, like this really low intervention approach, and versus a very technical approach. And we kind of try to meet in the middle. So we take the lowest. We think of, we are growing wine from our sites. So how can we be the lowest intervention in the vineyard and translate that into the winery? And that is diligence in, monitoring fermentation. So we are using ambient ferments, but we taste often. We check numbers in the lab. Like we have a full lab on site. So it's finding, the middle of that Venn diagram. Mm-hmm. So, and every wine is personal. So what, I may love, you may not love. And, the scenario the situation, and the environment you taste them in can mean something too. Like if you are visiting a winery and have a fantastic time, like you have a special connection to that wine. So, quality is one thing, but, for maybe those who approach it in a more professional manner, that's not necessarily what consumers are looking for too. So I think there's importance in understanding that as well.
Thank you, Early Mountain.
Thank you.
Hi, Michael. Nice to meet you. Lovely winery you have here in Virginia. And it's interesting, you worked in Puligny-Montrachet in Burgundy, France, and then you decided to come to Virginia. What inspired you to make that move and invest so strongly here in Virginia?
Wow, I've been in Virginia for over 30 years, and when I was working in Puligny-Montrachet while studying enology and viticulture, came across the Wine Spectator in 1990, and there was an article about this new upcoming region, Virginia, and it definitely drew some interest back then. I realized that climate was very similar. The soil's not quite the same, and some of the climatic conditions aren't the same, but overall the growing season's very similar. And being an East Coast person, was very curious, and came to Virginia. When I arrived in Virginia, there were 43 wineries, and I really thought there was a lot of upside potential, and here we are with over 300 wineries 30 years later.
Well, that shows potential. When you started custom crush bed, and I don't think that was very popular. I mean, you were the first. What made you decide to go with that business model?
Knew there were a lot of independent growers or winemakers that wanted to have their own brand but didn't want to do the whole investment in equipment and facilities and didn't have the expertise. So I know that custom crush is very common all over the world, but it hadn't hit Virginia yet.
So you have two different brands here in Virginia. You also have a winery in France, and you seem to have a lot of irons in the fire. How do you manage all of that?
I've got great people.
How would you define a quality wine?
It really, has to have, if it's a varietal wine, real true varietal character, well made, no flaws. Obviously wine, there's all kinds of different nuances and people perceive some aspects more than others, and so for me it has to be varietally correct. Unless it's a blend, it has to be complexity in that and show a sense of place, show unique character of where it's grown.
You said you got here in Virginia when there weren't very many wineries, and you've done amazing things in Virginia. What's next for Virginia and for Michael Schaps in Virginia?
Well, I think Virginia is still growing. We still have new investment in Virginia, which is fantastic, and the quality keeps getting better and better. When I first arrived here, it was a hobbyist industry, retired doctors, lawyers who had a country estate, and so let's start a winery. That's not necessarily the best place to grow grapes or start a winery, and we've seen that transition from when I started here to now, that now there's professional winemakers, viticulturists coming and looking for great sites, not just for viticulture, but also for tourism as well, because that's a big part of the industry. And so I've seen the quality increase at a much faster pace. That's really put us on the map. And so the evolution of Virginia wine is really doubled in a shorter period of time. And I really think it's going to continue that way. Eventually, we're going to see more investors in Virginia from other wine regions, and that's my goal, is to really attract more wine investment from, whether it's from Europe or from the West Coast, into Virginia, as has recently happened.
Well, so now we've talked about your lovely wines. Shall we try some?
No. No. Sure, well, we can start with a Chardonnay. This is a single vineyard Chardonnay. The vineyard actually is the Wild Meadow Vineyard up in Purcellville, which is not anywhere near Charlottesville. And it's got an interesting story. Having made wine in Charlottesville for quite some time and starting my own brand in 2000, I wasn't happy with the Chardonnay that I was seeing around Central Virginia in the Monticello AVA. It just didn't fit my style or what I wanted in a Chardonnay. So I looked all over the state and came across a vineyard in Loudoun County in Purcellville, planted by a retired couple. Small vineyard, 5 acres, but on a beautiful site, hillside, lighter soil, loamy limestone soil, which is very different than what we have here, but more importantly, a cooler climate, which Chardonnay needs. This Chardonnay ripens 2 weeks later than the Chardonnay here in Central Virginia. So cooler nighttime temperatures, more natural acidity, more balance, more freshness, and that really has proven to make this a unique Chardonnay. And I've been doing the single vineyard Chardonnay from this site since 2007. It's been very successful here in Virginia as one of the top award-winning wine Chardonnays in Virginia. But I make it the same way I make my Meursault in Burgundy, same barrels, same winemaking style. And this is the 2021, which is right now in 2025, really just opening up and expressing itself.
The aroma is amazing.
Thank you. Barrel fermented. All my wines I make are with ambient yeast, no inoculation of any commercial yeast strains. And I think it's a big part of the style of my wines. Well, I think the grapes are really, very concentrated, very distinctive. They can adapt and integrate the oak into and plus the aging process. This is on primary lees for 15 months with constant batonnage throughout. And so it really integrates the oak and obviously the nuance of the lees into this wine as well. So then we have something that's really special for Virginia. This is a dry Petit Manseng, and Petit Manseng came about through experimental plantings at the Winchester Research Station, and it was proven to be quite successful in our climate. And as the same reason why I said the Chardonnay didn't work for me in Central Virginia is the exact reason why this does. This is a high acid grape. So as we have the hot, humid evenings in late August and September, the acid in this high acidity varietal breaks down and softens and allows us to pick it, if you're in the right spot, at a reasonable, not too high, but a more reasonable Brix level, around 25 Brix, with balance and nice acidity, but not too much acidity. And so most people were making sweet or off-dry Petit Manseng because that was the easiest way to balance out the acidity, but I realized that we could do a dry style. And in 2012, I did my first dry Petit Manseng, and I believe I was one of the first ones to do a dry style, and it really has taken off for us and for Virginia.
And the aroma is
lots of pineapple, tropical notes. This is with this, and what I do my Viognier is some pre-fermentation skin contact. So this is on the skins before pressing, anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, and then it's pressed and barrel fermented. Only about 30% new oak in the blend. Does not go through malolactic fermentation. I block the malolactic, which you would think with a high acid grape you'd want it, but I like the flavor profile with the malic acid, and then it's aged as well for about 15 months on heavy lees. Right. lots of length, lots of viscosity. It does have high alcohol. Most vintages are between 14, 14.5, but the alcohol integrates with long aging and barrel, really integrates into the wine, and it's rare that I've had anyone notice the alcohol level in the wine, and still has that just great citrus acidity with a little bit of structure from the oak, and this is a white wine that also can age quite nicely.
Yes.
And we have a red taste, which is the 2022 Petit Verdot. And again, another traditionally high acid varietal, which also, both these are grown at our Honah property, just outside of Gordonsville, about 40 minutes from here. And same thing, traditionally a higher acid grape, but in Virginia, we can ripen this at really nice Brix levels with good acidity and really good balance. But the other thing, more importantly, is that in the area around here with the heavy clay soils, there's some of the Bordeaux varieties that don't do as well as others. This really thrives and produces not only concentrated, structured, big tannic red, but it's consistent. Both these varieties, Petit Verdot and Petit Manseng, smaller berries, they can handle the moisture during the fall. If we have rain, they hold up and they ripen year in, year out, no problem, and very little pressure from rot and disease pressure, so we're very lucky. These really are two ideal varieties for me because of the nice acidity that I can make the style wine that I like to make.
Yeah, I personally love to see more single variety Petit Verdots because I like them.
Very different flavor profile, aromatic profile than some of the other Bordeaux red varietals. It's a little more earthier style, a little more gaminess to it, but it still has the dark blackberry notes, some spice, and the oak aging, and this is about 50% new French oak, and it's aged for almost 2 years in barrel.
It's delicious.
Thank you.
Good. This really is delicious.
You got that on tape, right?
So we're here at Honah Vineyard where Michael Schaps has all of his grapes grown. We're here with Chris Hill, the vineyard consultant, and we're gonna talk to Chris about what's unique in Virginia and what's unique about this vineyard that makes Michael Schaps wines so delicious. So I noticed looking at your vines, they don't look like others I've seen. The trellising is very different. Could you explain this to us?
So we have so much vigor here. The vines are so robust that we like to divide the canopy so that we don't get the shoots and leaves too close together and shade one another out. And in Virginia in general, we just tend to have clay loam soils that have I'll get technical on you here, high cation exchange capacity, which means they hold a lot of nutrients. Pretty good depth, good drainage. We have ample rainfall.
So you're primarily pruning the north side, and the south side you leave
Well, I can
a
let
lot more.
I can let it hang down. Now these downward shoots have got to be pruned some at the ground because they'll just take off on the ground. These two rows, if you let them just go, they would just meet.
They'd be in the middle.
Yeah, and I don't know what you'd do with it then.
So your grapes are happy. Do you have, because there's so much rain, so much water, and so much humidity in Virginia, do you have a lot of disease pressure on your vines?
Fungi, yes. We don't have much insect pressure, but the fungal pressure is always with us.
So how many different varieties of grapes do you grow here at Honah?
Around 10. Mm-hmm. The one variety that handles rain better than the others is the Petit Manseng. What a wonderful grape. So everyone out there, drink Petit Manseng. It's so much easier to grow. and it's delicious wine.
I was about to say that it's good that it's easy to grow because it's one of my favorites.
Oh, that's good.
And I think one of the big things here on the East Coast, Virginia, North Carolina, is trying to figure out what grows best in our climates here. And so you're saying Petit Mansang. What are a couple other of your vineyard favorites?
The other thing that we have to worry about every winter, even with climate change, which by the way is occurring, so sorry. But we still get these shots of super cold air from the Arctic vortexes, I think they call it now. And so the record low in my vineyard, back when I had my vineyard, I had a vineyard just my own for 30 years or whatever. It was minus 17 Fahrenheit.
Thank you so much for sharing your vineyard with us and your expertise. And it's, many of us know that this is where wine starts. If without good fruit, you're not getting good wine. So thank you for taking care of the vines here in Virginia.
Well, you're certainly welcome. And those of us who do this, it seems kind of nutty, but we actually enjoy it.
I'm John Sporing, and today we're at the Carriage House Wineworks with longtime AWS member, Mike Fritzy. Mike, thank you for allowing us to come today.
Well, thank you for enjoying our little neck of the woods here. It's a little bit off the beaten path here.
But I know, 2016 you founded Carriage House Wineworks here, and you've gone very quickly to become a national presence. You've won the Governor's Cup, you've won numerous medals at competitions across the country. So I think you've just done a wonderful job here.
Well, it's a passion project, as you know, and so it's hard to not succeed when you're passionate.
Excellent. So let me ask you, how did your involvement with the American Wine Society influence your journey to get here?
Well, it in two ways. I think number one, it broadens your palate enormously, because without the tastings, you really wouldn't have an idea of what the varietals around the world taste like, right? Impossible. So that's very, very important. And secondly, I have to give hats off to the judging program, because I did that for years. And even if you don't judge, knowing what the faults are and knowing what the people are looking for is very, very important. So I think the judging program was instrumental in helping to be a better winemaker.
It does teach you so many other things that...
In fact, we had a faults class here the other day that people loved.
Excellent.
It was heavily based on the judging class.
I'm sure the judge program would be happy to hear that. So you continue, I know you're a welcome AWS members here at your winery, and how do you see that your continuing involvement with AWS helping you to continue to grow the Carriage
Well,
House?
it's nice to have AWS because they're discerning wine drinkers. You get all types, right? You get the types that care and the types that are out for a good time, and there's many different personalities. But the discerning ones tend to be AWS members and related, and we love serving those people because we do everything here, so we can explain the process.
And I know a large number of the membership loves to continue to learn. We have the conferences, the monthly chapter meetings, and it's just great that you're continuing that kind of thing here when people come in to taste your wine.
Yeah, if you grow the wine and if you make the wine right on site, there's a lot you can talk about. And who doesn't like to talk about their passion?
So what advice do you have for AWS members who are considering a journey like you and may want to open a winery one day?
Well, so this didn't actually just happen. There were a bunch of neighbors that were ex-partners of mine, right, that didn't know how hard the work is. So do your research carefully, talk to people who are in the business, take some classes, do the numbers, and see if it makes sense for you, because this is not the fast way to riches.
So why don't we try a few of your wines now?
Absolutely. So I don't know which one you want. Probably the white you want to start with.
We'll start with the Viennese, yeah.
It's a very floral wine. It's probably the first really good vinifera white that they grew in Virginia. That being said, it is tricky to grow in the vineyard because it is dense, heavy clusters. So it doesn't like what we're undergoing now, which is rain. On the other hand, it makes a wonderful floral aromatic wine. So let's give that a sniff. This was 23, which was a nice dry year. It reminds me very much of ripe peaches.
Very much
Peach
so,
compote.
yes.
And its richness is often mistaken for sweet, but it's actually not sweet. It's just rich and floral.
Very nice balance to it. You know, it's getting that nice acidity in there too.
Well, it's one of the better vintages, right? It's one of the better years, which helps.
It also helps that you are taking care of your vineyard, and you know, that's a big, right. Most of the wine is made in the vineyard.
Well, I would agree. 80% of the quality is the vineyard and 20% is the winery. I'll be honest with you. Or as Jim Law likes to say, I only work in the winery when it's raining. And I love that quote.
Excellent.
Because he's right.
So now we'll move on to your Red Baruch 2020. So what can you tell us about this one?
So the Red Baruch is a classic Bordeaux blend. Of course, we're not allowed to call it a Bordeaux blend because the French own that name. But it is a right bank, which I feel does better in Virginia. So it is based on Merlot, Cab Franc, and Petit Verdot. It's about 50% Cab Franc, 30% Merlot, and 20% Petit Verdot. The Petit Verdot is the tannic stuffing. The Merlot is the beautiful fruitiness and the spiciness you get from the Cab Franc. So we'll see what you think. This one, I'm serving these because these are some of the more popular ones in the tasting room. Nice nose
Beautiful
to it.
nose on that.
Yeah, you almost want a brandy snifter and a fireplace.
Yes.
You know.
The rich dark fruits and the spiciness even comes through on the nose.
The trick is, I think, with these Bordeaux's is A, make a right bank, and B, let it age enough.
So this is your current release. So
Current release is 2020.
and how long does it stay in oak?
18 months in oak and probably 2 years in bottle before we sell it.
Which is another reason why you won't get rich in wine.
Which is another reason you won't get rich, because it's not a Chateau cash flow. Tanat's even worse, by the way. Takes 5 years, right, to calm down. Our 22 is not ready yet, for example. We're still selling our 19, as an example.
Right. And so all of your fruit is estate fruit here?
About 80% of what we do is estate fruit, and 20% is, as you look around, is grown by my next door neighbors. But I buy nothing that's not more than a tractor's drive away. So it's literally a tractor's drive away, whatever I buy. And I buy some Tanat, I buy a little bit of Albarino. I liked it so much I'm planting it.
We're going to come back here in a couple of years and give that a try. So yeah.
Albarino's great, Tanat is great, and I don't happen to grow Tanat, so I buy it from my next door neighbor who does kick-ass Tanat. So.
And so the last one we have here.
Yeah, that's a perennial winner. That's the best block of Petit Verdot that we had the pleasure to work with. This is our Petit Verdot Reserve. It actually doesn't come from my vineyard, although I grow one, but not that one. Petit Verdot Reserve is from Windhorn, which is my point over here. It's my next door neighbor, right?
A tractor's right away.
A tractor's drive away. It's been perennially, this one got in the governor's case, the 2019 vintage got in the governor's case, for example. And it's been winning high awards ever since. It won the best in category in the Virginia Governor's Cup, for example, very recently, and a gold in the San Francisco Chronicle. So this is really nice, tannic, Petit Verdot, but it is approachable and floral. So it's early drinking, which I think is what the judges appreciated. It's not harsh.
Right. I mean, having done judging, you know, it does get that, if you get that Petit Verdot that's not ready to drink, it can be quite...
This one's ready to drink. I'd like to point out it bested wines that were years older because that block is floral. And you get the violets, right?
Yeah,
the floral
yes,
violets.
tremendously.
The tannins are very much under control under that wine.
It's very soft tannins, definitely ready to drink, yeah.
And that's important for Petit Verdot, right? Because some of them are not ready and you shouldn't release them when they're harsh.
But we're seeing more Petit Verdot coming out in Virginia where it's always just traditionally been 1 or 2%, right?
You
add
see
color.
it in here, a little blended in here a little bit,
Yeah.
right, in the other one. But yeah, there's a lot more as a varietal. Because why? It can handle the rain. Petit Verdot and Petit Vincennes, they can handle the rain that we're getting now. And we need to grow stuff that can handle rain in Virginia.
I mean, it's been wonderful as I've been in Virginia over the decades to see that they finally are finding the right varietal. So you can't just plant Cab and Chard everywhere and expect it to grow. You need to figure out exactly what does your property grow. And
we'll talk about that later, about what my opinions are. But you're right, you can't just plant stuff anywhere. You have to plant the right varietal in the right spot in order to have quality.
So let me ask you, to bring out your crystal ball and say, where do you see the Virginia wine industry going in the next couple of years?
I think what we need in order to do a breakthrough, I think we do really good at the local level. In order to get more national exposure, we need some bigger wineries that work with distributors that do national exposure. And that's one of the important things that we need to see in the future, is have a few big wineries take the national stage to let people other than Virginians know that we make quality wine here in Virginia. Very European in style, lower in alcohol, higher in acid, very food friendly. It's what people want, right? But they don't know about it because we only have relatively small wineries in Virginia. And so I think the future is a few larger ones that have national distribution. I think that's very important for Virginia to get on the national stage that way.
And do you see Carriage House being one of those large ones?
No, we will always be a little boutique place because we know each barrel intimately, and the experiences that you can offer people meeting with the winemaker or the owners is unique in a small place. And that's why the small places will always have a room in Virginia, I think.
Well, Mike, I want to say thank you for allowing us to come and sharing your wines with us today. And I look forward to tasting them and seeing many more of your wines in the competitions with all those gold medals you're getting.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, and couldn't have done it without AWS education.
Thank you.
We are here at Pearmund Cellars with Chris Pearmund, owner and operator of the renowned Pearmund Pyre in Northern Virginia. Chris, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Melissa. Great to see you again. Always appreciate it.
Thanks. What can you tell us about all your wineries?
Oh, over the last 40 years, we've grown a lot of wineries. Most of the wineries I participated in opening have been in a helpful hand over the course of time. We have 3 wineries right now: Pearmund Cellars, Effingham, and Vint Hill.
You started in the industry from the ground up.
Yeah.
From working in restaurants and sommelier to vineyard owner to winery owner to world-renowned award-winning winery. What can you tell us about your progression and your growth in the industry?
I started out working in the restaurant industry and learned that restaurants with a good wine list had better food and vice versa. So working in the restaurant industry and becoming a sommelier before that term was used in the middle 1980s, and working retail, and the evolution of learning that Virginia wine actually does work. So back then it was mostly California, and only 25% of the wine in the country was European. But really got bit by the bug in 1989, 1990, worked at my first winery for the 2-year plan. And that 2-year plan was to learn enough about the wine industry as a grape grower and winemaker to open up my own restaurant that is a winemaker experience themed in Washington, D.C. And here we are 35 years later, and I haven't been let loose yet, so maybe one day.
You've nurtured a lot of wine professionals, a lot of great winemakers through your doors. Can you tell us about your philosophy in winemaking and progressing the industry?
I see Virginia as stylistically and geographically between Old World and New World. We grow our grapes much more in a European fashion, with about 250 man-hours per acre per year, and not high yield, and we're 3 foot between vine spacing in our vineyard, so we're very high in that regard of European style. Our winemaking is much more New World in style. There's a lot of limitations in the AOCs and DOs and DOCGs in Europe on winemaking philosophies and style. So whatever we can do to increase the quality, uniqueness, regional character of our wine, we really try hard to do so. I was in Jefferson last week where they have Petit Manseng started from, which we love Petit Manseng. I'll share some with you shortly. And they are required to use indigenous yeast. And we have 4 different vineyards of Petit Manseng. Each lot uses a different yeast. With our old vine Chardonnay, we use 9 different yeasts, barrel to barrel, trying to generate more complexity with yeast selections. So we use technology to our advantage within the intent and law as it's designed.
Describe a quality Virginia wine.
Oh, I love that question. So my philosophy lately has been, if you had a piece of paper and you had a simple graph, and you talked about the aromatics, the texture, and the flavor of a wine, and you have first impression, mid palate, and finish, and graph that out, you have 9 different boxes. And if you were to able to taste a wine and appreciate a wine and think about filling as many of those 9 boxes as possible, you can create a storyline of 2 or 3 sentences or 4 sentences. Power is not balance. So if you have a delicate wine that has an evolutionary change of aromatics and texture and flavor, that evolutionary change from first impression, mid-palate to the finish can be very, very complex, but it doesn't need to be powerful. In the same way, you can have a powerful wine that's big alcohol, big fruit, big oak, but also very, very monolithic. So I think there's a big difference between power and complexity. And so we aim more for complexity in more of a European style. You talk about wine as old fruit. Okay, it's old fruit juice, got it. But you should also think and talk about and appreciate the flavors of minerality, winemaking, the tertiary aspects of wine aging that allow for wine, which is the most complex food that we eat in the world, to show that place of uniqueness where it comes from, what that terroir, what that place, what that vintage is about. And we really try hard to recognize Virginia and our wines and our vineyards as something that tells a story of the place and time and the people that work hard in it.
So you are a big proponent of education, and
Absolutely.
you have been a great supporter of the American Wine Society. Why do you continue to support the American Wine Society, and how have they assisted in your growth as a winery owner?
American Wine Society in the 1980s was a huge part of my belief. And in 1992, we started a chapter, the John Marshall chapter, restarted it, and I've helped several chapters get going. Our monthly meetings that between our chapters and our umbrella, or every week we seem to have a chapter meeting, are about appreciation, uniqueness of wine and its complexity at an enthusiast level. And that's what it's about. My mother was a school teacher and taught curiosity is a fundamental, most important aspect of human life. American Wine Society is great about teaching people about wine, about asking the right questions without any snobbery, without any difficulty, in a wholesome camaraderie way. American Wine Society's got it wrapped up.
Where do you see the Virginia wine industry in the future?
Our goal is to be here and be relevant. Every year we evolve with new wine brands. We've opened a lot of different wine brands, Black Ops, 12 Pearls, a lot of farm use, and these different brands that we evolve with try to show the story of Virginia in America in a light through wine. Maintaining relevancy is really important. And so we need to continue to evolve, and I think wine education, like American Wine Society, is a bullseye of how to maintain relevancy in the future. And I think American Wine Society has to be part of that, and will certainly be with us.
Thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about your project with Black Ops?
Yes. I'm former military and respect those who serve our community, whether it's family community or country community or world community. My mom served community as a school teacher. In the military, there's often times where veterans and their families have needs that are past what the government does. And there's a couple thousand wonderful organizations in the United States. And I'm with Coda Support Foundation out of DC, and we have a couple different services that we render to allow veterans and their families to benefit. And Coda Support, we make a wine called Black Ops. We started making it 12 years ago when the company was founded, the nonprofit was founded, and we continue to this day. It's the #1 wine that we make, the #1 wine that we stand behind, and we try to think of it as the best wine that we make.
So Chris, you just got back from Europe.
Yes.
Where you studied Petit Manseng.
Yes.
Tell us about your experiences in Europe, what you learned about the Petit Manseng and its growth in the US, and also some accolades you may have received.
Sure. We teach wine classes in Europe and doing it for 16 or 17 years now, taking groups of people. And Petit Manseng is a perfect segue into what Virginia is about. So we spend a week with some of the growers in Jefferson, where Petit Manseng comes from, and learn that we're about 15 years ahead of them technology-wise in winemaking, which is interesting because our wine growing is identical to theirs. Petit Manseng was first grown in North America in this county, in Fauquier County. We've been making it for about 20 years. And we've learned how to make this lovely wine more unique, more adaptable, more approachable, having the respective Jefferson where it comes from in France with a Virginia uniqueness of terroir, flavor, style, and what we have to offer. So I hope you enjoy this wine. Petit Manseng, if you think about Pinot Grigio, kind of a lightweight, non-barrel aged wine, and then Albarino gets a little fruitier, a little bigger. Sauvignon Blanc can be kind of meaty. This is the linebacker of Sauvignon Blancs. It's a big wine. This 2023 is scratching high 15s in alcohol. It was written up recently in Forbes magazine as one of the best white wines of the country. American Wine Society literally gave it some great accolades and double gold. We won twice Best White Wine at San Francisco in the last half dozen years. So I think Petit Manseng's recognized for its quality, unique character, and its bullseye for Virginia. What we learned was we cannot emulate these places. We need to embrace what we do have. And what we do have is an opportunity to make world-class wines in the shadows of the predecessors like Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, Petit Manseng, and others like that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the wine.
Thank you.
We have 4 different vineyards of Petit Manseng. They all have their own unique aspects. Mark Ward, our winemaker, has his own vineyard of Petit Manseng. They are harvested, fermented separately, different yeasts, and then we kind of do some blending as to what can be made with our 3 different wineries. It's a linebacker of a Sauvignon Blanc. I think they're awesome wines. It's so much fun to share this type of wine with people. There's over 4,000 grape varieties grown across the world and studied and researched on a commercial level. And I think this is something that really shines for Virginia.
We're about to try another Virginia staple, Cabernet Franc.
Cabernet Franc's a pleasure to grow. It crops well. You need to be disciplined in the vineyard. In Virginia, we really strive hard to anticipate late season rains, hurricanes, frost, all the bugs you can throw at us. In a good vintage, Cabernet Franc is awesome. This 2020 was given double gold in San Francisco. And when Virginia wines go to California and get double gold in Trump, it's so much fun because, you know, we only make, 1 million cases a year in Virginia. And when Virginia does well, it's so, you know, we earned that in the vineyard, and it's not Pearmund Cellars, it's not me, it's not us. I think it's Virginia and East Coast and small producers that are really awarded by the discipline in the vineyard. I hope you enjoy the wine. Oh, I love this wine, so much fun. This goes back to wine should be powerful. This has a beautiful fragrant nose. It's very complex. The tertiary flavors are coming through. The color's starting to show just a little bit on the miscus, but the wine, even in the nose, evolves differently. And I think that's what great wine does. Like a great Pinot Noir, it doesn't have to be powerful, but the nose is certainly big on this.
This is delicious. Is there a different flavor profile in Virginia Cab Francs versus some other Cab Francs that you may have tasted from across the U.S.?
Yeah, I think so. It's certainly not the power that California can have. And what I think in California, they tend to have the fruit ripen too early. When you have idyllic growing conditions, from flower to invasion to bloom is compressed and you don't get complexity and skin phenolics. Chinon in Loire Valley, beautiful, beautiful Cabernet Francs. Their texture is a great deal different than ours, often a little bit darker. Ours is, I think, complex, but not overly powerful. And it's a lovely wine, and I think it really shows you Virginia's uniqueness in our weather conditions and our disciplines in the vineyard to do something really special with this great variety.
What expression would you like to see on someone's face when they first try your Old Vine Chardonnay?
Do you sell this by the case? There's a lot of good Chardonnay in the world. Number one, great grown, which is amazing, the growth that it's had the last couple of decades. The Chardonnay is a chameleon of sorts. You can make a sparkling wine, you can make all different winemaking impacts, you can have a lot of ML, a lot of oak on it. You can go a lot of directions. And because of that, it's sometimes hard to get the expression of place, the regional character, the terroir, the unique story of that place. And I think we're trying to create a very good Chardonnay that has a unique identifier of Virginia and this winery. And that's really what we strive for.
And it does have those unique.
Thank you. Have some more. It's a big bottle.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you guys for being here. This has been wonderful. Absolutely wonderful to see you all. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Natalie Dippenaar, Executive Director of the American Wine Society. I want to thank you for joining us as we visited these wonderful Virginia wineries, and I hope you've tasted along with us and enjoyed the wines. I really want to thank everybody involved in the making of this video, the winery owners and the winemakers who've shared their time, their properties, their knowledge, and especially their wine with us. I want to thank the Crew 100 members who have generously donated to make this project possible. Without them, this really would not have been possible. And the committee, everyone around me, who've been involved in the production of the video. If you are not a member of the American Wine Society and are interested in learning more, please visit AmericanWineSociety.org. We'd love to invite you to a chapter meeting, to our annual conference. Here's to Virginia wine. Cheers.
Cheers.